So this is episode 1 of Lug Life Productions. We're going to start a podcast, and we only thought it was appropriate for the first guest to be no other than my older brother, CEO, founder of Junkluggers himself, Josh Cohen himself. Josh, thank you so much for coming today.
I'm honored to be here. I love what you're doing and what you're building here, and it's been fun.
Yeah, and I think ultimately our goal today is let the people see who you are, right? Like all the time, I just talked to one of your most recent hires, Dina, who's heading up Remix Market, and she said, you know, she had many job offers because right now this is the great resignation, and people want to work for people that they believe and trust in. And she said you were the deciding factor. So I really wanted to make sure that we had you on today so everyone could see, like, you know, you're an authentic human being who actually cares. And that's pretty rare nowadays when people are just trying to make money as fast as possible and start a business and be successful right away. So hopefully by the end of this discussion, people can see, you know, why you're successful. That's our ultimate goal of this podcast, right? Is not just to talk about junk removal, but to talk about habits that are created, to talk about why certain people are successful. I don't believe in luck. I don't think people are lucky. Are people born into specific situations? Of course. But I also think it's because of what you're doing day in and day out that has put you into this position for what people are going to see and think of as successful. So welcome to the first episode, and you know, hopefully we can have you on more and more, and we can start digging into some of these topics that will really make a difference in people's lives. That's my goal, is to talk about things that are relatable, not just about business, but like, what do you do on a personal level that make you who you are? This moment's brought to you by Remix Market. If you need secondhand used furniture, check out Remix, located on 1039 44th Drive in Long Island City. What?
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm the founder and CEO of the Junkluggers. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm here visiting our top franchise location, Junkluggers, New York City.
Going back to the question, right? What have you learned about creating a solid team that you can take a step back and feel like you're proud of what, you know, is going to come out of it? You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to.
Right. You know. I mean, you know, we were talking before about evolvement, right? So a team evolves. It's not like the team all got there at once. I read this book once about pruning and looking at a team like you take care of a plant. And as the weakest leaves, you know, are getting brown, you pluck,
Yep.
and then the tree grows bigger. So I've always believed in that, and I think I'm glad to hear you think the team is the best it's ever been. Hopefully that's always the case, right? Like, as the company grows, we have more resources, and we attract better people because we're building a great culture. That's how I think we've gotten there.
That's great.
I'm a bad manager. I don't love managing people, and so I think your point about hiring people for certain roles, you know, we put together job descriptions up front that say, if successful, here's the outcomes we expect. So we're clear going into it. Here's what we expect. Here's what you should expect. Here's what success looks like. And then when we're meeting, it's pretty clear we're meeting on, right? It's like things coming up, but it's also how much closer are we getting to the outcomes? So I think those are some important things. The other thing I'll point out, things I've noticed about you and so many people, including myself, is that the way you get a great team is you become a better leader, right? And I know you guys believe strongly in that. Yeah. So I think that, you know, I started Junkluggers when I was 21. That's when we got started here, right? So like, I didn't know anything. I just knew how to go and sell junk removal to people and be friendly and connect with them. And I think, you know, what I've learned about leadership, maybe you guys can chime in after, is it's about confidence. It's about having some direction, but it's also about like the humanity around it and treating people with respect and listening to them and giving them what they need. I think the whole idea of micromanagement is dead, and especially during COVID where people were more, you know, working remotely, it became even more apparent that that's important. That's what people want. So that's what's worked for me.
I agree with everything Josh just said. I think he touched on a lot of things.
You better.
Yeah. This is probably an issue that I've struggled with up until fairly recently, and I feel like there's still always improvements to be made, and just the human side. I'm I tend to be naturally very task oriented. I have to do X, Y, and Z, or I have to make sure someone working under me accomplishes X, Y, or Z. But you got to remember the people or the teams that are accomplishing X, Y, and Z are people with their own motivations, their own emotions, their own feelings. People have good days and bad days, just like I do. And really, that's kind of what I've been trying to focus on, is just nurturing not only people's professional growth, but making sure that their basic needs are met, that they're in an okay place emotionally. And if they're not, providing a safe environment to just come out and say it. You can come to me, hey, I know you're expecting this, but I'm actually really struggling with, X, Y, and Z with my kids or my family. And that's something that, like I said, is an ongoing struggle for me, and something that I think I've gotten better at, but I want to continue to get better at, is allowing people to be vulnerable with me, letting me be vulnerable with people. There's a lot of times where Zach and I might be talking, he'll have an idea, or I'll say something, and I find myself defending myself, or like not wanting to admit that I'm wrong or that my idea isn't the best. And I think I've made some strides there, and just trying to create an environment where I can and I should be wrong, and I shouldn't have any shame, or it doesn't mean I'm any less of a person or less of a manager if I'm wrong. If anything, it allows other people to see that we're all human. I'm not anyone necessarily special, and that if I can make mistakes, anyone else can, and should be encouraged to make mistakes, as long as we're not repeating the same silly ones that we have hopefully grown past. So.
And I agree with that. I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Boom.
Because I've gone back and forth on this issue. One of the things that I think where I'm at today is that you do need to allow people to be vulnerable. You want them to open up and tell you what's going on.
But?
Sure, there's definitely a but. And absolutely, personal lives affect work life directly. There's no doubt about that. So giving people tools to improve their lives is important. I also don't feel that it's necessarily always the person's job that needs to do that. That needs to come from within, right?
Of course.
So I don't know. In some ways, I guess I am maybe even less tolerant of some of that than I used to. If someone's coming in every day with a negative attitude, and we've worked through it, we've talked through it, it's affecting the company, then I may maybe even thinking about a change, right? Because it's not working for anybody. So. Not that I don't agree with you, but I also think there is a difference between someone's personal life and their work life, and there is a certain degree where you're coming here to work and to get shit done, right? Yeah. So to some degree, you got to get it together. As the leader, I will try to help you, but you got to be able to help yourself.
I'm struggling with something very similar right now, where someone is just not really pulling their weight, and I know that there's stuff going on behind the scenes personally. I'm even trying to find this person the help and support that they need, but at the end of the day, it may get to a point where, listen, it's not working.
You can't save the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think you two are very different positions. Like, Josh has a brand new baby at home. He has zero time for bullshit. People are definitely going to Todd, who's similar to Pete in terms of the company, and probably giving him a lot of personal stuff that's happening. And I think we should just pivot onto mindset, right? Like, it's so funny, but like this morning, Danielle Noon, like, don't f up my mindset today. We're all going to get together. We're shooting content. And, I'm sure you guys went through the same thing this morning, right? You wanted to pick out your junk shirt.
Yeah, to iron it. I don't know how to iron.
but I think mindset is to me, the more I can stay in it's not about quantity, right? It's about quality. Like, there's moments I know.
You talk about the flow.
Yeah, flow. There's moments I know where I need to produce, and those are the times where you try to condition yourself to get in that right mindset. So you both have two very similar mindset moves, which is audiobooks right?
Mm-hmm.
So thinking in that realm, what do you feel like is your mindset hacks? What is your life hacks that get you to the point
Yeah.
where you're
I
successful?
think for me, once I got some issues in my personal life resolved, that was an immediate, well, not immediate, took time, right? But that had a direct impact, like we just talked about. So that's one. Coming from a place where I'm happy at home allows me to come into work feeling happier. So that's one. Exercise, consistent exercise. Apparently you need to get back on that. If you're not feeling in a good mindset, now you see a direct relate.
I mean, I've been literally like every single day hammering him about this.
Yeah.
Because he's saying now that he's traveling back and forth from New York to New Jersey, he doesn't have time, and you know me, I'm like 5 minutes. Give me 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah. So
of exercise, and I feel
people
like
go through ups and downs with their exercise. I'm not sleeping, so you don't have an excuse. I have a baby at home, but.
Yeah.
One of the things I recently learned is that like your body likes routine and the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to like go to bed at midnight or work till 3 and then get up early, and it would switch every day. So the routine, I think, has helped me have a better mindset, right? Of the workout, eating healthy. It's not anything new. It's just like doing a lot of the things that we hear all the time.
These are real issues that people don't focus on, and you're saying the reason you're successful is because you focus on your sleep, you focus on your eating. You know, you're lucky you got Peggy, your wife, who perfectly...
Very lucky. I am very lucky.
who perfectly lays out your food, like, you know...
Not anymore.
Okay, not right now, but...
You talked about audiobooks. I think that's good. It's, what was the analogy? Like, your brain is like a computer, and whatever you feed it is what it's going to spit out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeding it good stuff and you're growing your brain, then you know that's what's going to happen to you. Vice versa if you're not. So that's another life hack. What else you got?
Automobile University. That's what they call it.
A life hack is like a tip or trick that you do that gives you an edge, right? So like...
Got it.
Yeah.
I got one. So I read an article a couple years ago, but I guess I started doing this before. I read the article, reading the article, if you've ever heard, Jeff Bezos keeps a list of things that he needs to accomplish every single day. You know, he might have 10 things on the list, but there's a couple that are, you know, must-dos. Warren Buffett has something similar. There's been stories about them, but basically it comes down to focus. So every day before I start work, I will write a list down. Sometimes it's even the day before, as I'm getting ready to leave, you know, work on Monday. What do I have coming up for Tuesday? Well, at 9 a.m. I have this, at 10 a.m. I have this. I have to have talks with these people. It doesn't really matter when, but we need to talk. And, you know, in my personal life, I need to pick up, you know, fish food or whatever, right? So I'll keep a list.
Literally fishing?
It's usually bearded dragon food, but more people, I found it more relatable to say fish because more people
much more relatable.
have fish than lizards, but that's just me and my wife being weird. But, you know, I'll have a notebook and, you know, as I have my meetings, okay, I had this meeting, you know, I did this task. So I keep a list. I actually have several lists, but over the years I went from digital to written to Google to this app, and now I feel like what works best for me is I'm just writing it down in like old school on a pen and pad, and I'm knocking it out. And I try to knock out all of it before I leave, and at least have a plan for the personal stuff. Some of it's like I gotta get this after work, I gotta get that after work, do my taxes, whatever. But that's something that's really keeps me on track. I honestly don't know what I'd do without it. I'd probably just go jumping from task to task like I feel like a lot of people do, but that's been something that's really helped me stay on the straight and narrow.
I do something similar with that. I'm just learning what a life hack is. So.
Give me a good one.
All right, you want personal life hacks, business life hacks?
I mean, it's the same thing in my mind.
All right, some of the personal life hacks that I've been doing lately are
What's the fad? What's the life hack fad of Josh right now?
All right, so I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis about 10 years ago. And so I couldn't like eat all these things. I was constantly, you know, my stomach was hurting me, and this went on for years. So I had to really learn about nutrition and food and how it affects me and stress. And I cured it. So my doctor said you can't cure it. And I said, screw that. I'm not taking, they give you medicine that people with leukemia take. And I said, I don't want to take that. And so I just learned about, and I basically became a vegan, which I know sounds crazy, but these days being a vegan is not like in the past because there's so many options out there.
Man, there's a really good vegan place near Bremen.
Oh, I can't wait. The other huge things that I've been doing recently are I drink half my body weight in water. If you guys have heard about that.
I think I drink almost full body weight of water.
That's too much.
I know.
That's
In
the
ounces,
nutrients.
right? So
When
you
your
drink half
when
ounces?
your urine is
Right, in
clear,
ounces.
that means you drank too much water.
Got it. So that I just really feel really good from that. And then I learned from Jesse Itzler, who's like he's this very successful entrepreneur that I've.
Video.
What's up, Jesse Itzler? Is that your stomach does not digest fruit. It's the only food that you can eat that your stomach doesn't need to digest. And how do you burn energy? The biggest way you burn energy is digestion. So I only eat fruit until noon. I learned this from him, which it also coincides with the body's natural cycle for like clearing itself and working things through. So I'll tell you, I've lost a bunch of weight from it. I'm so much more energy. I've just been talking about it with everybody I know because it's like really, really working. And my stomach, I never have any issues with it since then. So that's that. I'm just trying to think of more life hacks. So let's bring it back to business.
I also
for a
think
second.
with nutrition, it's like what works for you doesn't necessarily work for another person, right? Obviously, there's some things that are nutritional that everyone should do, like drink water. Like Pete doesn't really drink water. It's nuts. But like, there's people that go on carnivore diets. There's people that do keto diets. I'm obsessed with intermittent fasting. I always tell Roger, like, I won't even do these talks if I ate a meal beforehand because I just feel like lethargic. My brain isn't firing properly, right? So like everyone has their own.
Well, that's food you're eating too, though.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I feel like for me, it's less about meat and it's more about like carbohydrates, processed foods. I was just telling Pete earlier this morning, I'm going to try to take off 4 days, no processed foods. Because like everything that's easy and convenient is like in a bar, right? Or like in a sandwich.
And you kind of become addicted to it.
Of course, I'm addicted to sugar for sure. I know you are too.
Yeah.
You like
trying not to be that.
Sure, but it's all like, I think the key is figuring out, like listening to yourself and figuring out what actually works. Like Pete's naturally, like he eats healthy. He doesn't overeat. He's looking at me like, right now at this moment you are, but like you just naturally, like the difference between me and him is like if you put something in front of me, I'll eat the whole thing, versus him where he'll like pick at, he'll try it, but he knows to moderation. So I think the important part of being nutritious is like actually doing the experiment, like you're talking about figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
To try things, right? And
Exactly.
that's what I did. He said, maybe this sounds weird to you, but try it for a week. And I did. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good, actually.
No. And I think going back to a routine is like so important, right? Like the vegan lifestyle is sustainable for you, where it might not be sustainable for everyone, but it works for you.
Well, it is sustainable for everybody. They're just not there yet.
Right. But
This is such
but
a
you-
vegan move.
but
I
you-
don't get it.
how do you know if someone's vegan? Just wait, they'll tell you.
Yeah, it's like so crazy.
But it's sustainable for you where it's
Well,
like,
it's a passion. That's why people become it too, So that's why.
But I
so
think the
there's a
average
reason,
person
you have a
couldn't be
reason
vegan.
to do it, you believe in it,
Yeah.
and you're able to repeat it, right? Like I've tried keto before, and it's worked in terms of like cutting weight,
Right.
looking healthier. But for
Sustainable.
me personally, it hasn't been sustainable because I actually like if you put a carb in front of me, like I would dive across the table for it, because I was just
Should we try that?
my body
For
was-
sure. I mean, when
it starved me pretty much.
Yeah.
I have some other life hacks that I was thinking about.
Yeah, wait, can we just go to fasting? Because I feel like
Okay,
all
sure.
three of us have had experience with fasting. Why do you guys fast?
Well, there's a lot of medical evidence suggesting that a 24-hour fast
Is that why you're doing? Because the
is
medical
healthy.
evidence?
A lot of times it's just kind of my routine. I've never really been a big breakfast guy. I know a lot of people that aren't breakfast people. So if you're not naturally a breakfast person, that's already pretty much half the battle.
Yeah.
Right. By the time you get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, okay, that's 8 hours. If you're skipping breakfast, that's another 5 or 6 hours. And then if you could just try to eat before 8 o'clock, you're already halfway there.
That's definitely the hardest part for.
Yeah, eating late, right?
Yes, that's for sure the hardest part for people.
You know, there's times where I'm working and I won't even eat lunch because I'm just in my work, and you know, by the time I get home that night, it's already 24 hours since I've last eaten. I don't know if coffee is considered cheating. I don't think it is. I do have coffee the next morning, typically, but I feel good at the end of it, and I can eat as much as I want that dinner, and I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I haven't done it a ton. I've been learning about it, and I've been learning the benefits. Like,
Well, you fasted for religious purposes in the past.
yeah, yes, I guess it's similar, but it makes you more clear-headed. I feel like your mind kind of comes in touch with your soul and your body to some degree after you get through the harder parts and kind of cope. But the biggest reason I would do it is it allows your body to heal itself.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what it's known for. All right, so back to Jesse Itzler. I joined it's a one-year program called Build Your Life Resume, and I felt like for the last 18 years, my life had only been about work, and I felt like something was missing. And so what the whole program talks about is building things that you look forward to, things that challenge you, things that like fuel your passion outside of work, which is also a passion of mine, a big passion. And so you get this calendar. It's called the Big Ass Calendar. Put it on your wall. You can see the whole year.
He's good.
So you get the whole calendar, and so you can visualize, you know, what do I have to look forward to outside of work? And so you get Post-it notes, different colors. So there's going to be trips with my kids one-on-one, trips with my wife, personal wellness things that I want to do, adventures. And so you can start to visualize. So that's gotten me excited because now every night I finish up and I'm like, ooh, what do I have to look forward to? What can I start planning to get the most out of this year on a personal note? And then again, remember, personal fuels business and how you work there and how effective you are. So it's been great. And, you know, I went to work. I told my team a few weeks ago, I'm like, I'm just so happy. Well, I think that's building a business, that's life. You're kind of going through ups and downs. I don't know if anything's a failure. It's a learning lesson, right? Mm-hmm. We had franchisees a few weeks ago who were upset about a way we went about something. So maybe it wasn't a failure, but looking back on it, I learned from that approach. I listened to the franchisees, and ultimately, like, we made the relationship stronger because we heard each other.
Do you feel like you're afraid to fail?
I try to avoid it. You know, I think 18 years starting a business from scratch, you build thick skin and you get used to kind of the punches and rolling with them. And any good entrepreneur, you know, they know that that just comes with the job. And so you just need to expect the challenges and just expect that you're not going to give up no matter what happens.
See, I feel like I'm the exact opposite. Like, I look to fail as much as possible because then I feel like if I'm failing, then I'm making a mistake. I'm learning from it. If I'm not failing, then I'm like too comfortable in my own. But that's also, I feel like, who I am as a person, right? Like, I like.
Well, I think that's different than failing. That's like you're pushing yourself to grow, right? And learn and evolve.
But when you push yourself to grow, don't you feel like you fail?
Yeah, you're uncomfortable. Yeah.
And I think the best part about what you guys are talking about in failure and you coming before me and, you know, coming up with this business model is learning from other people's failures is in a lot of ways is better than, you know, you failing because you don't have to deal with the rejection and the learning lesson firsthand. You can learn from experience. Like, I know a lot of things I came across for the first time when coming on, I would come to Zach and he'd be like, oh, this seems like a new problem, but it's actually just this, a symptom of this, which I've dealt with, and here's how I dealt with it. So learning from the people before you, the people that have more experience, you know, that's why if Zach's seen it 5 times, Josh has probably seen it 10 times, you know, for the first time that I'm seeing it. So
And I feel like this is like the plug, right, for the franchise system. Like, this is the most powerful thing about a franchise system is we have Slack and someone can ask a question and then everyone will tell you what their failures are. Obviously, I still don't think that's usually enough, right? Like, a lot of times franchisees will hit me up.
Yourself.
Yeah, you got to learn yourself, which is why I feel like failure is so important. It seems like I'm talking about failure as just like setbacks but you're thinking of failure as like actually losing, right? So,
Yeah, like from when I started with the business, I always said I will not fail. Like no matter what happens, we're gonna make this work. Failure's not an option. So you're looking at it like learning from something that
exactly.
went wrong. Yeah.
So think about what are the, like, now that I explained that to you, like what do you feel like were the biggest learning lessons that made you pivot to where we are today? Because, you know, I've been saying a lot, but I feel like this year, the pandemic was like the first time that like Junkluggers is now like a brand name. It's like become very powerful. We sold 60 franchises in 12 months.
I think, listen, it would take a long time to go through all the mistakes that we've made. But I think, yeah, like, one of the reasons that Junkluggers was able to grow so much over the last 18 months is because we got a lot of things right in preparation for when that surge in demand came for people who wanted to change their lives. They didn't want to stay in the same job. They were reassessing their life because of COVID. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't made some mistakes. So, for example, one of the things that you read a lot about if you read professional development books is the team, right? And having the right team. And I have learned firsthand, you know, that makes all the difference. We've got an all-star team now. We've got people with great experience in different levels, specialties well beyond like what I could bring to the table in a lot of areas. So for one, when you're supporting a franchise system and building a business, you guys see it, right? Like when you can rely on each other, how much better and easier it makes run the business. So I think that's one. We got a lot of our marketing programs in place. You know, a good franchise system is not as good if you can't support your franchisees growing. And so we learned a lot, and we put together new systems and programs. We brought in a really experienced chief marketing officer. So that's the second thing. I think a third thing is that while there was a surge in demand for Junkluggers, we stayed selective with who we brought into the company. We had some pretty strict criteria on who could become a franchisee, and as a result, we've got franchisees in the system now with business acumen, capital, experience, well beyond, I think, what a typical franchise system would. So that kind of comes back to people. So learning from like 9 years of doing it wrong, and then eventually, like, it just takes so long to get stuff right. It takes 18 years, right, to get to this point. There's no tricks, but it all starts to come together, and that's what I found.
Going back to teams, because I feel like that's probably both of your biggest strong points. So when do you feel like was the part where you stopped thinking that I could do everything by myself and started building a team? Because for me, I feel like having a baby, having the Achilles surgery, these were like forced moments in my life where I had to like take a step back, realize I can trust my team and let them grow. And I think, I mean, Pete's the reason why, right? Like, I took a step back in the last year. It gives me this opportunity right now to like start sharing this through content, and you know, and I think you've probably had moments like that too, right? You had some medical scares that forced you to take a step back. So I know I just asked you guys like 7 questions, but let's stick with these ideas, right? The importance of a team, and then also like what have you learned when you had to take a step back?
Well, I guess it really started maybe about 3 or 4 years ago when I started thinking less about myself and my job and my responsibilities and more about our team and how I could continue empowering and growing our leadership team, which would then hopefully do the same with our movers, our remix team, everything we're trying to do here. And I read a lot, so I would read things about people that I admired, you know, the Elon Musk, the Mark Cubans, anyone that had something to say or any interesting ideas about management and team optimization and personal optimization. And well, they all said things a little bit differently. A lot of them kind of keyed on the concept of we all have the same amount of time in a day. We all have 24 hours in a day, 8 hours in a workday. Why can certain people accomplish X, Y, and Z, and some people can only accomplish, you know, their duties in their list? And a lot of it has to do with delegation and delegation it's a buzzword, but I feel like that doesn't really tell the whole story. It's really about empowerment. I'm not just dumping tasks on people. We're giving people roles and responsibilities based on what they've demonstrated that they have the potential to do. And by them taking on a task that, say for instance, I'm doing, they can then start to grow and take on more and become more valuable team members. And that's kind of how me and I guess Zach's responsibilities shifted and Josh's responsibilities have shifted over time. These guys started in the truck, right? So from starting in the truck, they realized, okay, I could teach somebody how to be in the truck, and then I could be the guy answering the phones, overseeing the routes, and I could impact more people. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to empower our team so that they can impact the people that work under them. And my job primarily is just, yes, I have some busy work, everyone does, but it's to just remove obstacles and get out of the way to let the people that we've spent a lot of time making sure that they're the right fits and that we sharpen their skills as much as possible can do what they need to do to execute and grow us.
I heard a lot about, although you didn't like calling it failures, you like to think of it as learning lessons. Same thing, but I also think a lot of times in life, life forces you to take a step back, and then when you take a step back, you're like, I've got actually a great thing going, right? And most people work so hard and they never get to reap their benefits.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're in this position now. Everyone here has worked their ass off.
Except Cooper. Make yourself at home, bud.
He's worked his ass off by going
Sleeping.
on these hikes with Zach.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
He does not like any of these
Zach
hikes.
Torres.
Yep, he is
This
double.
is not gonna look good on my interview.
Yes, it is. This is life. He has 2 double torn ACLs.
This is my life when I'm here with you.
Just be grateful Winston's not here.
I was actually thinking before how much quieter it is. I think you two are perfect examples of embracing the moment, right? Trying to keep your head in the game, focus on activities that are going to elevate you to the next level. And, ultimately, the only way we're going to be able to grow a business or this business is if you have people around you that you can trust and respect. And I think that a lot of our success has been because we have family and friends around, right? And a lot of times in the beginning, the only people you could afford were probably me because
I didn't pay you.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of times when people start a business, they're like, I want that amazing number 2 or amazing number 3. In all reality, it takes years, right?
Sometimes, but listen, we didn't do it this way, but I do look back and wonder if you had brought someone like that on, maybe could have sped up the timeline a little bit. So I don't rule that out, even though it wasn't my path.
Sure. And maybe if you had serious funding,
right,
you could afford that person. But I also think it, just like anything else, it takes time to grow. Totally. So by having this stud person that worked at Google or Facebook coming on board to be, your CTO, if you didn't have the sales, it's just...
Right, definitely.
So thinking about that, right, what would be your tips for someone starting off a business to grow sales? Because I think you guys do a great job with that. That's not my specialty, but ultimately, if you don't have the sales, your business is non-existent, right? So think about that.
We are all salespeople, whether we like to believe it or not, because we have to sell our vision and passion to someone else in order to sell whatever it is that we're actually promoting and selling.
You need to have value, something you're selling that is of value to somebody. You need to hustle. You need to build the right structure, team, whatever around you to execute on whatever you're promising, and then you need to be aggressive. So whether it's for Junkluggers, we have what we call the winning 3. So it's a combination of aggressive marketing, right? So you got to aggressively market the heck out of your business, get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Mm-hmm. You got to build relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Strategic relations with people who are going to send you business intentionally. Mm. And then third, guerrilla marketing, we have our overalls, we have pictures standing in front of the Holland Tunnel and this ridiculous tight green outfit with a Junk Luggers sign.
If we get 5,000 likes on this first YouTube video, then will you go back out there with the green overalls on?
I think it was
Think
wasn't
about
it the leotard. Wasn't it like
It was
yeah? It wasn't even overalls. It was like
So
the spandex suit.
Think about how hard that would be if we got 5,000 likes.
That's not that hard.
Are you guaranteeing
Aren't
that
there like millions of people on the internet?
I'm just saying.
There's gazillions.
Set the bar higher here.
We only have at this moment like 2,500 Instagram followers. So if we get 5,000 likes, which is not gonna happen overnight, will you go back out there with the leotard on and sell
It's a
Junk
full
Luggers?
body leader.
We'll find it. We'll find it on Instagram. Will you do it?
Sure, yes, I'll do it.
That's awesome.
All right.
I think that's how you grow a sales pipeline, right? Like those are the keys to success of growing a sales pipeline. One of the reasons I always was like hesitant of going into sales was like the fear of that. Like you think of sales, I think of like a car salesman, right? Like hey, why don't you want to buy this car? Come on, buy this car. Like it's a great car. It's you want to buy this car. Look at yourself in the car, right? But fast forward into where we are now, you need to believe in the product and in whatever it is that you're selling, right? And if you do not believe at the end of the day that what it is you're selling actually works or makes a difference or makes an impact or whatever the case might be, then you will not succeed. And that company will not succeed, without a doubt.
I'm so glad we finally got Lon nailing. That was good.
And then I think so you believe in it, and then the other part I think is probably obvious, but like create a business that people actually want and need.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people will go out and they think, I really believe in this, I love this idea. It's not tested, you put a whole bunch of money and time into it, and then nobody really freaking wants it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
And a lot of our customers don't even know they need us yet, right? Like all the time someone will say like, Junk Luggers, I've never heard of you. I'm like, bright green trucks, just wait. And then all of a sudden you get that text.
3 days later.
Yep. And they're like, oh, I've seen you. And now, all of a sudden my aunt is clearing out and she's moving to California. So it's a very good point. Is there anything else?
Another guerrilla marketing tactic we took on, right? Neon green dump trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll stand out. Back to like, there's probably a lot of people who want to know, like, how do you build a successful company, right?
You want to get back into
so
business?
So you talk about that. I'm going to get back into that.
Okay,
right.
let's hear it.
And I think it really comes back to a few things. It's like you have to go into, and we talk about this with our franchisees, a mentality that you're never going to give up no matter what, because it's going to be hard. But what I can attest to, and what other franchisees can attest to, like you, is it gets easier, right? So having a vision for where you want your business, and then just saying, whatever happens, I'm not going to give up. Tomorrow's going to get better. I think is really important. So for people who are wondering how do you start a business, pick something. Don't obsess over it for 100 years, right? Because there's no perfect business. It may not necessarily like be exactly, the thing that's going to make you Elon Musk. But go for it and spend the time to get where you want to be. And ultimately, like, nothing should stop you or hold you back. It took me 4 times as long, I think, as I would have hoped for Junk Luggers, but I was willing to not give up. And I'm so blessed to be around so many amazing people now. It's been a lot of fun being here today. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing and what you're building here. And, if I can support you guys, just let me know. But I don't love getting in front of the camera all the time, but I think you made it fun, and it was a lot of good topics. So
awesome.
Hopefully it's good for other people to hear.
Awesome. And I think we'll end with Tim Ferriss's favorite move, right? If you could have a billboard that said anything on it, what would it be? It doesn't have to be Junk Luggers related, but like, what would you want people to see every day as they're sitting in traffic?
I've never even heard of that.
Sorry, guys. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts for years.
Lug that junk. No. Peace, love, and junk.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Things that aren't premeditated, like we had no topics set up. Like that's, to me, that's the exciting part, right? Like everyone wants to plan out what they're going to say, and in all reality, that's not how life is. Like you have plans.
Right.
It's so funny how Cooper just sits like this.
I'm gonna get out of here.
Hey, baby. Sit online. Episode 1, Lug Life Productions.
Should we break out the
I do want to see Josh in the overalls.
The overalls.
Maybe later. Might bet. I think I still have an old picture of you in some khakis that we gave you.
Was that the
for an old
photo shoot? Yeah. I couldn't even button them. They were so skinny.
But we got it done. We
Yeah.
made it work. That was probably 15 years
Zach's
ago.
like, come over real quick. I need you. What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. We're doing a photo shoot. We need another person.
We got like 5 million people saw that ad after that.
We're going to remix. All right, Koopy, I know. He didn't want you on his lap. That was so weird.
You guys are really using the best use of this telephone booth.
Yeah. I can't understand why VaynerMedia was getting rid of that. That's what we always said.